Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
From everything I've read about this man and his career so far, and our bit of a pre-interview, I like him, except he's going to tell me the biggest lie in the world, so I'm not going to be able to value his opinion in a moment. But Matt Delamater, who's going to be starring in The Tender Bar with Ben Affleck, Christopher Lloyd, and George Clooney, premiering December 17th, and then globally on January 7th. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, my man, and I'm so grateful to be here. And I hope I'm not going to lie to you. That's going to be my biggest effort, not to lie to you, my man. But yeah. Well,
every brewer tells me the same exact lie.
Okay.
All right, and you are part of Oxbrow Brewery, and
Oxbrow, yep.
And every one of you tells the same exact lie. Oh, our IPA is different.
Oh, see, I got you now. I got you. See, we are an American farmhouse, European-inspired farmhouse ale brewery. We don't even regularly make an IPA, so our IPA is actually different. So, but no, you're right. You're right. Every IPA brewer will tell you that. Everybody that brews an IPA will be like, no, my hops are the best. My hops are the most special. But no, the thing about beer, my man, is it's a very simple recipe, right? It's very simple. So it's just about quality of ingredients and having good teammates and having a dope label, right? I mean, come on.
Absolutely, man. But the only problem is IPAs suck.
By
the time you get them from Maine to California, they've spoiled.
I agree. Hops are the most fragile things on the planet, and I agree with you. If you want to stand in a line and you want to drink something really fresh from the source, there's some incredible beers out there in that genre, and there's a ton of them out there now. But I agree with you. It is not. I always joke, like when that first craze hit Maine, I was doing like a cross country trip with a friend, and I threw a bunch in my car and was like giving them away to friends that beers they couldn't get, and they're like, this doesn't taste good. And it doesn't after you leave, the brewery parking lot sometimes, because it's meant to be, it's why, like, Hetty Topper, the OG of that style, says right on their can, drink it now, drink it fresh. Maine Brewing Company is the same thing. So I agree with you. It's a tricky one.
See, then we're on the right page, because unless I'm drinking it straight from just the giant 50-gallon drum that it's freshly poured into, I'm not going to enjoy an IPA. A stout, we can let it sit and age like a bottle of wine. So that's why I'm more of a stout or a porter guy. I love that, dude. I knew I liked you already, and I think that's great. I mean, I think that's, it's funny. Like, I'm completely biased because the brewery that I work for, Oxbow, we make kind of, beautiful esoteric mixed ferm, barrel aged, stainless aged, saison mixed fermented beers. So like, we can ship ours to Japan. They can sit in customs for a while, and they just get better up to a point, for a while. And so, it gets more complex. There's more of a snowflake factor where the yeast is kind of doing its thing. And so I really like that, that sort of complexity. But yeah, it's hard if you're used to crushing a double IPA or something like that. My advice is go there, come to Maine, sit in a tasting room and drink that beer from somebody, you know what I mean? So I do have to ask this before we get into the film stuff. Have you microbrews kind of killed Oktoberfest in the United States? Because before we'd look forward to it like, oh, this Spaten is like 17% alcohol, or this Pilsner or whatever, this Hef, and, I get to drink it out of a liter. And then now we go to places like your place or some places here in Orange County, which is like the second largest brewing facilities in California, only to San Diego. And it's like, wow, here, you can only have an 8-ounce glass of this because it's 25% alcohol and tastes like a birthday cake.
Yeah, we may have killed that. You're absolutely right. Yeah, we probably should take the blame for that one, the craft brewing world. But, hey, we're all just banding together to stand up to those, those big breweries that are making, uncomplicated products, right? That's so, it's all for the win.
Exactly. And now you guys are this is my goal for you guys. All right. Of course, I have zero stroke and I'm just a blowhard at this point. but at the very least become the official beer of a minor league ballpark over there in the Northeast.
I love that. I love that idea. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we have, because we got the Sea Dogs up in Maine. Those guys are good. Unfortunately, Shipyard's got that kind of locked down. But I'm with you. I could get down with that. I like that. That's awesome.
Don't forget there's hockey over there. There's baseball. There's the G League for the NBA. So there's some minor league teams that you can pull.
We're representing. Yeah, absolutely. Portland's totally representing. 100%. It's a good sports town.
Yeah. Well, man, you're killing it right now because you got so much going on. I mean, you've been in Castle Rock, Daddy's Home 2, American Odyssey. You've been on stage in True West, Constellations, Waiting for Got It. You got the brewery going on, and now you're going to be co-starring with George Clooney, Christopher Lloyd, and Ben Affleck. Christopher Lloyd is in his 80s, and he's had two extremely legendary characters in, Preacher Jim from Taxi, and then, of course, Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Is there ever a point that someone does not do either a Jim or Doc Brown impersonation to him all these years later?
I'm sure it happens all the time. I feel like that's such like a no-no in that world, because like you said, you're like, how many times have you heard that? But it is, you have to pinch yourself whenever you're around Christopher Lloyd to be like, whoa, this is Doc, this is crazy. It's funny, I followed him in his kind of incredible illustrious theater career. He's actually done a lot of theater up in the New England area and then in the Northeast, and so I've gotten to see him on stage, and he was amazing. I mean, I think either during this or right around it, he was doing King Lear at 83. So that man has got it. I mean, that you can't. I hope I'm doing King Lear at 83. Are you kidding me? That's insane. And so yeah, he is just prolific. And it was funny. And you're being very kind to me with co-star. I was lucky enough to be a part of this incredible ensemble. I will tell you that. This was being a kid from Maine, getting to walk to set and see that call sheet with all those names and get to I'd be like, have to check it multiple times, make sure that was my name on the list, was an absolute dream. And it's funny, there was two sets kind of in the sound stages where I was mostly in the bar set, and they had a set for, Christopher Lloyd's character's house, kind of grandpa's house. And they were next to each other, but it was like the two worlds, like we would go to the bar and they would go to the old house. And so it was this funny thing where we'd like see each other in passing and see each other in certain days where there was like the sets would come together, but it was very much like a surreal thing in COVID to be in a bubble, following all the crazy safety precautions that, we were supposed to do, but then ending up in basically a bar with drinking fake beer and smoking fake cigarettes with two Batmen. You know what I mean? Like, that was bizarre. That was like the most surreal situation. It was crazy.
And now for next year's brewing batch, you're going to come up with your own near beer, so you guys can start selling that to the movie studios and for the sets. I get it, man. I get it.
It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. That's a tricky process. I have mad respect for those brewers out there that can make that beer happen. That's why there's not too many of them. So I think we're stuck with alcohol in our beer for a while, I think, but
well, it's a good thing to be stuck with.
Yeah.
But this film is based on the memoirs of J.R. Moehringer, and how he, absentee father, trying to put his, get his footing, and then go off to college and become a success. I mean, a lot of people can relate to this story, whether their dad passed away when they were young, ditched the family, or whatever umpteen ways that happens when you lose a parent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big fan of the memoir kind of style anyway. I think, and especially when it can be done so well, like Moehringer did in his memoir back in the early 2000s. And, so I think it's a perfect medium to transfer into a film because it's real. Yes, it's a narrative story. Yes, it's, you have to have kind of an interesting story, an interesting take for it to be compelling, but he did, and it is inspiring, and I think it does connect with a lot of people that have, based on their upbringing or their situation, had barriers put in their way, and they had to overcome those. And I think what's fun about this one, and the book does it so well, and I think that the film does as well, is it's like the cast of characters that are around your life that help you kind of get through your journey, whether it's when you're younger or older. And it's not, hopefully it's family, but oftentimes it's not. And so, getting to kind of play one of those satellite characters in the young guy's life was just a treat, man. And it's such a fun group of them.
The difference between this and say Hillbilly Elegy, that might as well have been a French film. Like as depressing as that movie was, but true to life. I mean, it's another memoir film, and God bless him, going from like Appalachia all the way to Ivy League is a huge deal. But the way the movie unfolds, it might as well have been a French film, because it was just so depressing all the way through that you're like, man, I want the guy to succeed, but I feel bad for him all the way there. With the Tender Bar, it has, how do I put this without sounding stereotypical, because that's going to be rude, but it has a very Celtic feel to it, a very New England Irish feel, in that even in darkness there's still humor.
Totally. I think that is a compliment. I think they did such a good job with that, in that not taking it themselves too serious. Like I love, because it is this journey where you do stumble and you fall, and it's not this like perfect arc that you have to just like hit out of the park, right? But it's more, what I really love is that it's about the relationships that really matter. It's, the relationship between, Tye's character and Ben's character, and the grandfather and the mom and the aunts and the uncles and the guys at the bar. And it's like that sort of tapestry is kind of, everybody has their like little, beats in the band that kind of plays to the overall note. And so I really love the way that the film kind of came together in that, and that's the way I think you experience in the novel as well, and the adaptation that William Monahan did, is that memoirs are just kind of journeys. You kind of like dive into the river of someone's life, and it's usually attached with some really beautiful writing and some wonderful imagery, and it's more about the emotion of the experience. And I think that really translates well to this film, and I'm glad to hear you say that. It's great.
I do have to transition into something before we get back to the film, a slight detour. You graduated with a degree in finance. You're in the Northeast. It's maybe a 2.5 hour, 3 hour train ride to Wall Street. At some point, does your mom look at you and go, you gave up the financial world to sit there and go and have a stable career, and we'll put that in quotes, in acting? You're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. I think there was probably many a time where I had my parents being like, so when's this acting thing gonna be gonna go away? But no, they've actually been really, really supportive. But the funny thing though is honestly, like you're right. I was a banker. I graduated for finance. I was either going to be an English teacher or a banker. I chose a banker. And I kind of dove into that life really, head first, but I found myself along the way, as I'm assuming most bankers do, like missing something about yourself. And I grew up, and I was in Maine, where I had wonderful clients, and it wasn't like the Wall Street kind of like greed image that you might see from bankers. But I discovered acting through community theater. It was something to pursue, to fill those kind of like passion voids maybe. And I fell in love with it. And so, I always joke like it's a typical Mainer. We all wear 50 hats. Everybody has a regular job and plows driveways on the weekend. You know what I mean? And it has a landscaping company in the summer, and they're teachers. And, so you just get kind of used to that environment where you don't have to pick just one thing. And so I was always lucky that, and I got my job with Oxbrow, luckily, because I had a beer TV show on YouTube before that was even a thing. And so it's just, I kind of love that. And it's kind of like the film where you kind of never know what the hell is going to happen. You just got to kind of make choices and stick them out. And so I just kept plugging away, I got this film, auditioning in my 2-year-old son's bedroom, because he has good light and a white backdrop, so it's just, you never know, man. You got to keep swinging. So I that's just been always my mentality. And I really like the fact that having kind of another part of my brain and another world that I can retreat to is helpful in this kind of acting creative world that I think actors, musicians,
anybody in the creative side, there's not, the world's not always your own control, up to you. You throw yourself out there and hope you stick. And so I like that I can kind of commit myself when I do get these opportunities, which, I've been lucky enough to get the ones that I have.
One of the advantages of the world falling apart that I've noticed is that the self-tape, for auditions, is that now you can send out 15 auditions from your living room while still wearing pajamas versus having to run around Manhattan or LA or Atlanta or wherever else that the industry's taken off in, and trying to get these auditions while sitting in a room and looking at everybody else that looks just like you, trying to get the same part.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I agree with you. I think that is a silver lining. I will say, like, there is something lost, with really good casting directors and people that can give you immediate feedback, because you're sometimes, you're just on that island out there. So hopefully you have, good friends where you can be like, did this suck? But the self-tape I think is wonderful, because I used to joke all the time. I drive, 2 hours down to Boston to sit in a room sweating for 10 minutes and then turn around and drive back. You know what I mean? And it was like, people be like, why do you do that? You're like, well, that's what you got to do, So I like that I've gotten those hours back for sure. So I hope we don't, I hope it stays, to be honest with you.
Well, you're going to have to make an on-camera test anyway. So it's the perfect camera test.
Totally. Yeah. And, everybody has a blue, green, or gray backdrop now, and everybody's got a ring light. I mean, come on now, Amazon loves it, so it's all set. It's all good. No.
I was joking with somebody the other day. I love Amazon, and Amazon's put out some great films. They put out some great shows. The Boys, The Tender Bar, from what we've been allowed to see so far, and everything else has been great. But I joke, I was like, Amazon could fail at making movies because they sell enough toilet paper and toothpaste that they make it back in a week.
Totally. And I'm sure there are many opinions on that subject in a lot of ways, but I do think that there is something wonderful when, for so long, right? Making films, making projects was always, and it still is, obviously, financially driven, which I understand coming from that world. But I think that this new world of streaming and where there is this other source of revenue, right, that they can rely on, it gives them more freedom to let the artists do their work. They still have to deliver, and they, all those things, which they want to do anyway, so I agree with you. I think it makes the work better. I really do.
Well, kudos to Jeff Bezos for diversifying.
Totally. I mean, thankfully he's putting his money into creating stories, right? There's a lot of other things I'm sure that they could put their money into. So I'll take it, man.
Hey, man, from selling used college books to movies.
Yeah, give George Clooney money every time. I mean, I love it. That's awesome. That's who I want him to be giving money to. It's great.
Well, you guys pull off, from what we've been allowed to see so far, you guys have pulled off a really heartwarming story through the face of adversity, and I'm so glad for you for that. And now your career has a trajectory upwards. I mean, you worked with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell on Daddy's Home 2, and keep going now with Clooney and Affleck. So, now you get to sit there and go, look, Mom, I'm in a movie with 2 Academy Award winners over here. So you can kind of get off my back about this.
Yeah. Mom's very proud, which is great. And I'm super proud to have gotten the chance to be on this. I always say, like, there's no delusions of grandeur in this world for me. I literally, as cliche as it sounds, but I think because I was, doing theater everywhere and saying, yes to whoever wanted to hire me, for so long, that I feel so lucky every time I get a chance to be on set, every time I get to do project, it's fun. We get paid to make believe, we get, to tell stories. I think that, anytime you're going to be away from your family, you want to make it worth it and enjoy it. So I'm always just so grateful. So, these things come in fits and starts. So I'm hoping to, ride whatever waves come, and hopefully people really enjoy the film. And I hope I get a chance to tell more stories. That's always what you do. But in the meantime, I'm lucky that I can be in Maine and be with my kids and my family, make some beer, hang out and, drink a few once in a while too, and that's worry about the things I can control, and that's always the way.
For sure, man. Like, the funny part is, like, you see people, and we'll pick on Gene Simmons for a second, because he put his life out there with Family Jewels, a half a decade ago or so, and major rock star the world over, performing 150,000 people, and then at home his kids make fun of him. Like it's almost a humbling experience in that regard. And I say almost because it's Gene Simmons and I love Gene Simmons and Kiss and everything else. But like, how does that keep you humble in that, yes, your career is on a trajectory, but like the humility part comes in that you still have to change diapers at home, or like,
yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like, I think that's the beauty of kids. And my I've been with my wife for a long time. We've been, my best friend for a long time. And so having those people where like they came and saw you in like the worst acting you've ever done, and we're like, yeah, that was great, honey. They keep you humble, and kids are great. It's like, you came back from the film and obviously was away because you had to be had to be kind of sequestered in that world for a bit, and it was, we'd read books on FaceTime and do all those things and come home. And it's like, my daughter's like, when are you gonna voice over a Disney movie? You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, okay. She's like, to her, it's like, George Clooney is like, the guy, from Fantastic Mr. Fox or whatever. But it's so it's like, he's like, can you do that stuff? Like, when are you gonna do that? So they keep you humble, man. It's good. It's good.
She looks at you and she's like, Dad, listen, you haven't made it until you're on Gravity Falls. All right.
Like, when are they going to do another Moana? Can you do that? I'm like, yeah, honey. Yep. That's the natural progression, honey. You're right. Yeah.
Oscar award winners, animation.
Yeah.
And I love animation. I mean,
no, I do too. I'm just saying, yeah, I'm just like, a couple of people want to do that too. It's cool. It's cool.
We're putting it from the perspective of the child. We're not clowning on anything. How old's your daughter, if you don't mind me asking?
She's 5. Yeah.
Okay.
She's 5.
So from the perspective of a 5-year-old, like, yeah, Clooney is cool. Dad bought me that new bike, but Dad in Moana 2, even if it's straight to video, is Dad in Moana 2.
Yeah, that would be that's the end all be all. Yeah. So yeah, and it was funny because Renzi Feliz, who was in the film with Tye in the Yale world, who's a fantastic young actor. He has some voice roles in the new Disney Encanto, and my daughter was way more pumped about that. She was like, "What? Really?" You're just like, it's so rad. So,
which will totally keep you humble, and the kids will be excited for you.
No, it's great, man. I think you have to be. There's too many examples of that's what I always say, like, the thing you worry about, the things you can control. It's like, you can show up on time, you can be kind, be nice to people on set, work, because there's no guarantee that people are going to like your stuff. Have a choice, make it, the Tom Hanks, have an idea, and at least leave people being like, geez, I didn't like anything that guy did, but he was a nice guy, so it's like, at least you can control that.
Right. Show up on time, be nice, and be willing to work, and that'll take you far in life.
Use the work thus far, and then it at least keeps you in that headspace where you can play, and that was the fun thing. I mean, full disclosure, you get a role like this, and I'm not a major star or anything, so you show up, and I'm like, George Clooney told me to do backflips, I would have learned, you know what I mean? Like, but and so he has that kind of power and that sort of presence, and he deserves it. But I love that he's confident and he gives you great direction, but he's also, lets you play and lets you, discover that, because he's an actor, he's a great actor. And so it was really kind of a dream in that way, where and then you have Ben Affleck, who is also a director and, makes incredible choices and is incredibly generous to work with. And so it just felt like every day, it was like every day I went to set with Michael Braun, the guy who played Bobo, and Max Casella, who played Chief. And we hung out a lot after shooting, because we stayed in the same place. And it was just like, I just have to pinch myself. Like, I get to work with these guys every day. Like, this is so cool.
The only thing that sounds like it would have made the set even more fun is if there was a Batman bat-off between Affleck and Clooney.
Oh man, I know. I think George was itching for it. All the time. No, I know. Yeah, they gave it. They're just such jokesters. It was funny. I know. It was always like, that was it was like 2 sexiest men and 2 Batmen, right? And they're always on set. You know what I mean? Like, it's just funny.
To the point you're like, I'm happy my wife's not here.
Yeah, you're like, come on, gee. And so we're in a bubble, honey. You can't come and visit. Sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Batman 1 and Batman 2 are here.
No.
Stay home with the kids.
No, you're good. You're good. No, yeah, it was definitely a trip, man. It's definitely a trip.
All right, so you're working with Batman from Batman and Robin and Batman from the Dark Knight, and Justice League franchises. If you got a chance to be a superhero other than Batman, since you already worked with 2 of them, who would it be?
So it's funny. I thought about this the other day. Actually, it would be a 100% Wolverine, and that is crazy because Hugh Jackman is the best Wolverine in the planet. So that's, I picked the one you can never do, but I love that character. I think that character is like badass. He's got like a cool, rad, crazy super power, but he's got like a code. He's complex. He's conflicted. I love that character. I think he's great. Yeah.
Which makes sense because he got to play with Cyclops in this movie.
That's right. Exactly. I know. Yeah.
We got like the DC Marvel like covered.
So true. I know. So
crossover.
technically, it's like by Kevin Bacon, 6 Degrees of Separation. I'm like technically a Marvel. Okay, cool. This is great. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Tye was so great to work with. I mean, talk about a great career and incredible talent, and yet like literally the nicest human you will ever meet. Like the sweetest, nicest human that like does not. He is like the picture of humble. It was such a joy to work with him. It was like that in the whole set. It was cool.
This sounds like it was a fun shoot.
It really was, man. And it was like, it's almost not fair. It's like, where was the jerk? Like there needed to be a jerk just to throw it in the mix. And there really wasn't. Everybody, was stoked about the project, was really excited to be there. Everybody was putting in like clearly their best work, which always makes you want to rise to the occasion. And they really cared about it, which doesn't always, that's not always the case on projects, in that sort of uniform way. And so that's just like, that's what you ask for. That's what you hope for and you dream for. So it was so cool to be a part of that.
So, to transition back to the beer, since the holidays are coming and you guys got to stay warm in the Northeast. I mean, it is a frosty 78 degrees here in Huntington Beach today.
Dude, when I was in LA for the screening, it rained and everybody freaked out. I was like, what's going on here? I know it's trouble when the weather out there is rough.
Yeah. I mean, 78 is a little chilly. So like, what's going to keep you warm being the beer guy over there in the Northeast? It's
stout, it's porter season. We have some kind of we have some more boozy kind of mixed firm stuff that comes out, that keeps you warm when you're out skiing. Well, one of our locations has is the site of an old cross country ski center that you can go and ski for free and have wood fired sourdough pizza and crushed beers out in the cold in your snowsuit. And that, I feel like that's what I'm actually on a project right now in Chicago, and I feel like this city is the same way. It's like when you're in the cold, you just have to embrace it. Like Quebec City, it's like everyone wears thick jackets and goes out and drinks boozy drinks and walks around because otherwise you just be inside all the time. So I think we just kind of layer up and get the dark beer going and try to get people outside. We actually have like a bar in the woods that you have to ski to get to. And it's like the biggest hit because, especially since post-COVID stuff, because it's like, oh, okay, there's beer out there. All right, I'll go, and it's like, it's simple. You just put beer in the woods and it works, people go outside.
So hold on. So in the summer, it's a nature hike. And in the winter, it's cross-country skiing to get to this bar.
You got it.
All right.
Little satellite bar. It's a little satellite bar away from like the main lodge. So the main barn location. So it's kind of a COVID creation because we weren't going inside and we were like, well, are people going to sit outside in the snow and wind and drink? And they did. It was really cool. So bring your fam. And so, yeah, you come out to Maine, my man, we'll just get you some Canada Goose and we'll just, we'll get you guys all have those anyway. And we'll just, we'll get you out on some skis and drink some beer. We'll make you a Mainer in no time.
You know what? I think I'll hang out by the fire and not get on those skis because
that's cool. I have mad respect for that too. That's cool. We'll just build a giant bonfire and you can hang out there.
Sounds good, man. Because my knees are bad enough as they are. I don't need to like damage them anymore with the skiing. But I'll kick back when you guys get down the mountain. So
it's true. You can hold down the fort by the fire. I like that. That's an important job. Job.
My luck, the moose will show up and then I'd just be out of luck because I finally I never realized how big they were till we saw this video of one over in the Northeast where you guys are. And it was I think it sat on somebody's car or something. I was like, I thought they were the size of deer. I didn't realize that they were these just woolly mammoth sized creatures.
Dude, you don't mess with them. You don't mess with them. It's one of those things where, like, there's all these roads up where I grew up in Western Maine, and where they're literally, like, you drive up north a little bit and they warn you that there's moose crossings or whatever, and it's like a legit thing, especially in the nighttime. You can't. They hit your car, you're not winning that. You're not winning that battle. So it's they're no joke. So, but
yeah. Those antlers will give those Texas Longhorn a challenge.
Yeah, seriously, dude.
Yeah.
Seriously, they're no joke. Everybody loves these, like, cute moose. They want to cute them up, little stuffed animals and stuff. But no, you don't want to mess with them.
Right, Rocky and Bullwinkle type deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man. So, like, you got beer, you got acting, you got a family. Like, you don't sleep at this point apparently because of everything that's going on.
You got to, professional, plate spinner, man. You got to fill the table. I work hard, play hard. That's the thing. Like, I think, I'm lucky this year to have gotten a chance to do a lot of, acting projects, which I'm really excited about. It's not always the case. So you kind of take them as it comes. And I feel like sometimes the plate gets too full and you got to back off. And, my wife is a photographer, and she's a photography business. I shoot with her on the weekends and stuff too. And so COVID made that a little crazy, but then you just say, okay, cool. There's the ceiling. I found the ceiling. Now we gotta, we recalibrate. So it's just, you take it a year at a time. And that's kind of, I like that. It keeps it interesting. It keeps it fun.
And have you realized that it's not a flat ceiling? It's a cathedral ceiling at this point?
Totally. Yeah. It's your own creation sometimes. And you're like, oh, right. I choose, I control this thing. Okay, cool. Good point.
All right. Well, here's the big thing. So the Tender Bar is based on a memoir. What does Matt's memoir look like thus far? Like, let's say we're at chapter 4 thus far. What does chapter 4 look like?
I think it's like the realization of hopefully some hard work, to date, and some taking risks and kind of keep plugging away at your dreams. I mean, that sounds cliche and cheesy, but I love acting. I love doing this work. I would do it all the time if I could. You play the cards you're dealt in life. Of course, I would have loved, I'm sure, at one point in my life to move out to LA or New York or, one of these big film, TV, theater towns. But those weren't the cards I was dealt. I had a family and a mortgage, and I was a banker and a life, and you kind of discovered along the way. So I just, I was lucky enough that the state of Massachusetts got film tax incentives and could allow me to go down and see what filmmaking was like, and to work with some great, great theaters in Maine and wonderful teachers that, could allow me to grow, so I feel like hopefully that's where I'm at. And hopefully that's what I'm showing my kids, is that, success isn't a straight line. You know what I mean? It's jagged, and you got to just keep, and there's no guarantees, but if you care about something, go for it. You never know,
And you got the perfect setup for a movie now, because, we have Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now we could have Matt and the Peanut Butter Stout Factory.
I love it. See, boom. You're right. It writes itself. I love that.
In search of the perfect stout, like that's, beer competitions, and we'll go from there. So long as I get to do a set visit and be like the official beer taster, then we're good to go.
Yeah, deal, man. Wow, now that I know you're a stout guy, I just, you might get a package of olive oil in the mail then, I guess. So,
well, that will be my Christmas gift, and I'll be more than thrilled to celebrate.
Oh, that's so rad, dude.
No, because you got a brewery, like, take advantage of it. I mean, we had Beer League with Artie Lang, and then there was the Broken Lizards guy did their Beer Fest movie and all that stuff. So we need a couple more beer flicks.
No, there needs to be. It's like, I feel like, especially brewing and microbreweries is such a culture. There's so many of them, and there's similarities. We all have beards, and they, but it's changing all the time, and it's constantly. I agree with you. I think that's like the league. You know what I mean? There needs to be like an episodic sort of brewery show. Yeah, totally.
And then you take on some of the big boys. We just, rename them from something else to,
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's no copyright infringement.
First letters or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No.
Everybody loves the local, will root for the local pub. You know what I mean? Come on now. It's like, that's what it's like in the UK, you got the local pub in the corner. Here you have your local microbrewery. It's awesome. I feel like it's bringing that back.
See, and it works for you guys too. We have so many in Anaheim over here that like they do brewery crawls. Like people will set those up and go from brewery to brewery.
They have like bus, because we have bus companies that take us around, because it's you in Maine, you drive everywhere, but like same with you guys. But
but no, these are almost in walking distance from each other. Cool. Like most of them are across the street from one another.
Oh, that's so rad. Yeah. Different scale, but there's some similarities in Portland. Yeah, there's a lot of breweries, right? Different little pockets, little boroughs, so you can go and hit a bunch up. I think that's a great thing. That's what I loved about, it's so funny coming from banking to beer. It was like my first day on the job, it was like I had questions, and I understood finance in that world, but I didn't know everything about beer. And the owner of the company's like, oh, just go talk to the CFO of Allagash. They'll talk. And I was like, what? You can do that? And I was like, yeah. What do you need to know? And they're just like such a giving, caring community of people that they really they wanted to see everybody succeed. And that doesn't always happen in business, even in small community business markets. So I love that about that collaborative nature of the industry.
I noticed that with microbrews, and I noticed that with voice actors. Like voice actors are like, oh, I might not be the fit for this, but I know a guy that you should listen to. And then breweries over here, like, and I'm gonna name drop, and I'm not getting anything from them, but like I know the people at Gamecraft, and they're like, oh, have you been to Dueling Duck yet? They're a small brewery, they're really good. I'm like, okay. So we show up there, and he's like, oh, how'd you hear about us? I was like, oh yeah, the guys at Gamecraft mentioned you. He's like, I love those guys. And like, there's this weird back and forth because typically you'd look at each other as competition. The guys at Coke are never going to send you to Pepsi.
Totally. I know. But I love that about kind of, there's some cool humanity in that. Like what? Like you can drink Coke and Pepsi, like people can drink different types of beers, and they're not like, it's not like, nope, I'm an Allagash guy. That's it. I only drink that. And those people probably exist, but it doesn't mean you can't go try different things and explore. And I think that's what makes you better. And I think if you're trying to just put blinders on your customers, be like, don't go over there. Don't go over there. They're better than us. I don't know if that's a good business model. So and you got to, and I think there is that nature of like, we're all, relatively small, and we're all fighting for the same cause, and we all have the same, challenges, especially the last couple of years. So I found that to be a really cool silver lining of that community, 100%.
Dude, that's the awesome factor of it, because it's not as cutthroat as we would have imagined it to be.
No. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the big boys. Yeah. I mean, but that happens all the time, buying out distributors and things like that. But I think when you're just, everybody's just trying to sell beer over your bar and make your customers happy. And I think it's better to create a community, and that everybody can enjoy, and then everybody gets to play, and that's, it's a good lesson.
Yeah. Well, when you come back out here this way, we'll do one of the brewery crawls over in Anaheim or San Diego.
Definitely. I love that. That would be amazing. Yeah. I got to expand my beer vocabulary these days. It's growing too quick. I can't keep up. So right. I love it.
Yeah. There was one place in San Diego that had one that tasted like birthday cake. And then I believe it was Abnormal. And I know James, the guy that owns it. So of course I got to throw them a lifeline as well. But like, they had one that tasted like a birthday cake. They had one that tasted like a candy cane. And I'm like, dude, if I was, in my 20s, if I knew beer just tasted, like fruit and food and stuff in comparison to just like Pilsner, I'd be like, I probably would have been an alcoholic. So it's good to go that route.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have that in college. Exactly. Right. Yeah. We would have escalated to just grain alcohol at this point. Yeah. So it's like, no. I know, dude. It's the creativity always blows me away, and how people, are pushing the envelope. And I think that's what makes that space so rad, because it is such a simple ingredient base, man. It's not, right. It's cool.
Yeah. How difficult is it? Like, so when you're making beer, like you said, hops, barley, malts, and things that go into it, and then to come out with all these flavors on top of 5 basic ingredients, along with the yeast, to change the industry itself. Like, how does that creativity in making essentially liquor, come into becoming a performer and acting?
I mean, I think it's, I really love mixed fermented beer because of like, you throw these ingredients together, right? And then like wild fermented, inoculated yeast from the air, like cool ship brewing, those types of things. That to me is a great analogy, because you're like taking these very simple ingredients that have to have good quality. You got to have good water to have good beer. You have to have quality, good ingredients. You can't just buy, the cheapest junk. And you got to have a plan. You got to have a game plan. You can't just, I was the worst home brewer ever, because, I was impatient. I was like, it's good enough. It doesn't have to be this temperature or whatever. It does. It really does. And so, I love those beers, because then but then there's just this like kind of magic from the air. You get whatever yeast you gather from that place, and you put it in an oak barrel for a while on some stainless, and you see what happens, and life kind of takes its own. And I think that's a really good analogy for the creative process, because that's what we're all doing, right? We're just like working hard at our skills, trying to improve where we can, and hoping for the best, hoping it works, hoping it sticks, and so that's what I think about a lot when I'm out there on stage or on a set, being like, I hope this sticks. So.
I dig it, man. I dig it. All right. So obviously my scientific knowledge is going to be limited in this, but could you take the fresh snow from one of your blizzards that you get every 6 weeks in the Northeast and use that, melt that down and use that as the water for one of the beers? Or is it
technically you could, but there's a lot of, junk in the air, and there's a lot of acid, things like, so you'd probably have to break it down. You'd probably have to, reverse osmosis. A lot of places, if they don't, if they can't control their water source, or maybe it's town water or whatever, they'll beat it up chemically, make it what they want it. You know what I mean? So we're lucky in our brewery where we have well water. And it's really good, natural, a little bit more higher in sulfur than maybe normally, but that really lends itself really well for brewing. And so there's a lot of kind of storied breweries in the Northeast that well water is just a lovely, complex, ingredient. And so you're limited to the source. So you can't make, you can't be a 100,000 barrel brewery. We're only about a 5,000 barrel brewery. But it's a good ingredient choice when you can get it.
Well, when you guys make an offshoot in Colorado, I think you'll be able to pull it off and steal from some of the big boys.
Yeah, totally. No, when you think about it, like, a lot of the best beer in the world, it's like usually there's some pretty darn good water there. So something to note.
Yeah. No, because I met somebody that was a water sommelier, and I think there was a specific term for it. And I was like, I got to get in on this scam. Like, I'm going to tell you where the water came from and the minerals and all that. And of course, someone was like, I'm going to get something in the comments. It's not a scam. It's a legitimate thing.
Oh, it's totally, no, I mean,
when I first heard about it, I thought, I was like, dude, this is like for real. I got to get in on this.
Take that for granted, right? Like 100%, but yeah, it's the most arguably the critical ingredient of the product. So and it's very complex, and the mineral, I am not going to claim to be the pro chemist here, or the science geek of geeks. By all means, I can fake it till I make it. But no, it's true. It's true. There's typically places that don't have good water don't knock on, not always, don't always have the best reputation for beer. So
right.
Like,
let's be honest, and hopefully our friends in Michigan get their water treatment facilities up and running. But right now, I wouldn't want a Michigan beer.
Yeah, I mean, I luckily the technology, they probably can fix whatever ills are coming their way. So it's like luckily I think science has their back there, which is good. So it's probably getting better.
That's what we're hoping for. We want Michigan's water to be cleaned up. We want people to have drinking water in Michigan. Yeah. I mean,
forget the beer. Let's just make sure they can have some water, for crying out loud, right? Jeez.
It's like medieval times. You had to have mead in order to survive because the water wasn't drinkable.
Exactly. People are exactly drinking the lightest beer possible just so they can stay hydrated. Yeah. That's real vintage beer drinking right there. That's good.
Right. Taking us back to 475.
Seriously. Yeah. It's like the new hipster bar. I like that. Yeah.
Matt, with everything that's going on, the work that you're getting, the career is moving forward there. You have a trajectory of upward mobility on this. You've diversified into beer. You're probably going to open up a winery at some point and do some like German iced wine up in the Northeast because, you know, it snows 9 months out of the year where you live. Like, you're taking photos with your wife and, you know, professionally, not just personal family pictures the whole time. You know, it's not like a Sears booth where you know, everyone got dressed up and went to Sears type deal. Like, you know, at some point, where do you pull back and just enjoy the moment instead of just continuously forge forward in your work?
You know, honestly, I feel like I'm getting there. I feel, you know, the hope is, I think you're trained, certainly as an actor, as I am, is like, you're trained to think like it's not going to keep coming, you know? So you have this like forward trajectory is the only thing you can do to kind of counteract that insecurity, I think. And so I think that my hope is that, you know, if I can continue to keep doing this wonderful work, like, you know, I got to do with the Tender Bar, and, you know, that hopefully that will allow me to let go of some other things. But at the same time, I think, you know, I like having a lot of different projects. Probably, honestly, the number one thing there, my man, is making sure that my family gets enough time with me. That's the number one priority. So I think that probably is going to probably dictate it more than anything. So just forces you to be more picky. I hate saying no to things. So I'm like the classic, you know, actor where you're like, yes, I want to do that. You want to work with me? I want to work with you, you know? So, you know, people pleaser, you know, but I think that you get better, hopefully, you know. I'm only, you know, only taking me 40 years to say that, but hopefully I can get better at that and start, getting to be a little pickier. So that's the hope, my man. So
I love it. Matt Delamater, where can we find you on social media? Where can we find the brewery if we want to make an order? If you only just ship to the Northeast, maybe down to Virginia or something, you know, so we can get you some extra orders that way. And, you know, we'll pitch the movie one last time as well.
No, I appreciate you, man. Yeah, no, I'm Matt Delamater on Instagram and all those things. I'm a classic ancient millennial. I'm terrible at it, but that's the Delamaters is kind of like our family life. And my wife's business is her name as well, Emily Delamater Photography, and see our work out there. The brewery is Oxbrow Brewing Company. Oxbow Beer is and Oxbow Brewing Company is our Instagram, and see all of our activities out in the world. And you know, we're out here in the beautiful woods of Maine, in Portland and Newcastle and Oxford, and we do distribute in you know, across the country, in New York, and we distribute it in California. You can see us down, you know, kind of scattered throughout different places, smaller drops, but you can find us, and up the East Coast. So you can find us if you want to, which is cool. But if you come out to Maine, yeah, stop by the brewery. You got to buy your beer. So. All
right, man. When the next film festival opens up, I'm gonna make it my mission to get out there just so I can come hang out with you guys as, like, you know, the bonus aspect of the trip.
Absolutely, anytime. That's the best part about working in the beer industry, is you get to drink beer with people. And yeah, and I hope you enjoy the film. And you know, the work that everybody did and everybody put into this film was incredible. And I think people are going to really enjoy the Tender Bar and the story it tells, and the incredible work that everybody put in. So I hope people check it out.
Absolutely. Listen, man, the Tender Bar comes out in limited release December 17th, nationwide December 22nd, just in time for Christmas. And then January 7th on Amazon Prime. Perfect timing for Theophany, or, you know, or Epiphany. I mean, it's essentially become a Christmas movie at this point. You know, you're in there with Ben Affleck, Christopher Lloyd, and George Clooney, the Tender Bar. Matt Delamater, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. All the best. Thank you again.